Zoe Johnson's life changed forever the day she answered her phone at work. At 29 years old, she worked as a cleaning lady at the Grand Plaza Hotel, one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. She had worked there for 6 years, mopping floors and cleaning bathrooms, invisible to most of the guests and staff who passed her in the hallways. That morning, as Zoe cleaned the marble floors of the hotel lobby, her phone rang. She knew she shouldn't answer it. Manager Richards had made it very clear that cleaning staff were not allowed to use their phones during work hours. But when Zoe saw the number, her heart jumped. It was the University of Amsterdam. After trying 6 times to get a scholarship for her master's program in linguistics, this call could change everything. Zoe quickly hid behind a large marble column and answered the phone quietly. The voice on the other end spoke in perfect Dutch. It was Professor Van Steen from the university. Zoe immediately responded in the same language, her pronunciation flawless as they discussed her application for the international program. She explained that she was worried her application letter had not arrived on time. Then Zoe noticed the sudden silence around her. She looked up and saw Richard Coleman, the billionaire owner of the entire hotel chain, standing just a few feet away. He was watching her with clear surprise on his face. Next to him stood Manager Richards, her eyes wide with anger. Zoe's stomach dropped. She quickly ended the call in Dutch and hung up. Manager Richards' voice cut through the air like a knife. She ordered Zoe to her office immediately. The walk down to the small basement office felt endless. Zoe could feel her co-workers staring at her. Some looked sorry for her, others seemed almost happy to see her in trouble. Zoe was the only black woman in the cleaning department who had a college degree, something Manager Richards seemed to forget on purpose. In the office, Richards didn't waste time. She reminded Zoe of the rules about phones and said it didn't matter what language she was speaking. What mattered was that Mr. Coleman, the owner himself, had seen a cleaning lady ignoring her work to talk on the phone in the lobby. Zoe felt the unfairness burn inside her. She knew the white receptionists took personal calls all the time with no punishment. But she also knew what this was really about. Manager Richards gave Zoe a harsh punishment. For the next 3 months, she would work in the convention center bathrooms. This meant double the work, especially after big corporate events, with no extra pay. Richards told her to be grateful she wasn't being fired. That night, in her small apartment that she shared with 2 other women, Zoe cried. She looked at her linguistics degree hanging on the wall. She had spent 6 years cleaning hotel rooms while trying to save money for a master's degree and sending out job applications that went nowhere. The next morning, Zoe arrived at work early, determined to stay professional despite the unfair treatment. Then the front desk called her name. Human Resources wanted to see her right away. The HR department was on the top floor, next to the executive offices. Cleaning staff never went there. In the elevator, executives discussed business deals without even noticing her. When Zoe entered the HR office, the director told her that Mr. Coleman had requested a meeting with her. Now, Zoe sat in the owner's massive office, confused and nervous. Richard Coleman was 45 years old and famous in the business world for turning failing hotels into luxury properties. Coleman got straight to the point. He asked if she spoke Dutch, French, Italian, and Mandarin. When Zoe confirmed this, Coleman explained that he had asked HR for her resume after hearing her speak Dutch the day before. He read from the file that she had an honors degree in linguistics from Georgetown University, spoke 6 languages fluently, including 2 Asian languages, and had been cleaning his hotel for 6 years. Coleman asked her directly why someone with her education was cleaning bathrooms instead of working in international relations. Zoe took a deep breath and told him the truth. Over 6 years, she had sent 47 resumes to the hotel's international relations department. All were ignored. She had tried 12 times for an internal transfer. All were denied by Manager Richards and Mr. Whitmore, the Director of Operations. Coleman wrote down the names without showing any emotion. He found it curious that Whitmore constantly complained about not having multilingual staff, especially for Asian conferences. Then Coleman made Zoe an unexpected offer. A major trade conference with Dutch and Chinese business executives was starting the next day. He needed someone who spoke both languages fluently and understood cultural differences. He wanted Zoe to be the international relations coordinator for the event, at $5,000 per week, starting immediately. Zoe could barely believe what she was hearing. That was more than she earned in 3 months of cleaning. Coleman explained that he had heard her speaking Dutch like a native. She had the qualifications he needed, and he suspected something was very wrong in his company. Within an hour, Zoe had a new badge and full access to the hotel systems. On her way to finalize the paperwork, she ran into Manager Richards. The shock on Richards' face was clear. Richards demanded to know why Zoe was on that floor without her cleaning uniform. Zoe calmly explained her new position as International Relations Coordinator, appointed directly by Mr. Coleman. She mentioned her Georgetown degree and fluency in 6 languages. Richards turned pale and stammered that it was impossible. Zoe simply reminded her that her resume had been in the hotel files for 6 years, along with her 12 transfer requests. At the HR department, Zoe found an ally in a newly hired analyst who had seen Zoe's file and couldn't understand why someone with her qualifications was in housekeeping. That afternoon, as Zoe prepared for the conference, she discovered something disturbing. The event documents contained incorrect and inappropriate translations in Mandarin that could cause serious diplomatic problems with the Chinese executives. She quickly corrected the errors and redesigned the welcome materials. Coleman asked how she knew the translations were wrong. Zoe explained that the previous translations used terms that could be considered offensive in formal corporate Chinese. Whoever did them knew basic language but not cultural details. Coleman said that Whitmore had assured him he hired the best translators, and it cost a fortune. Zoe suggested that he hired someone without checking their credentials properly. When the conference began, Zoe moved smoothly among the international business executives, switching easily between Dutch and Mandarin, helping conversations and building connections. During a break, Whitmore approached her for the first time in 6 years with a fake smile. Zoe calmly pointed out that it was strange how her resume listing Mandarin fluency had been overlooked, especially when the hotel spent $50,000 on poor translation services. She also mentioned that she had confirmation of every email she sent over 6 years, including those that warned about translation errors. What Zoe didn't say was that the HR analyst had given her access to translation contract records. The translation company belonged to Whitmore's niece, who had no real experience in formal Mandarin but charged expert rates. Worse, all previous translations contained similar errors that could have cost millions in lost business. On the 3rd day of the conference, one of the Dutch businessmen recognized Zoe from an article she had written about linguistic variation in international business. He had cited her work at conferences and called colleagues over to meet her. Coleman watched from a distance as Whitmore grew increasingly uncomfortable. On the 4th day, Zoe noticed Whitmore leading a young woman to the executive elevators. She overheard him mention translation work and recognized the last name. The woman was his niece. Zoe saw that she was carrying documents with the same critical errors that Zoe had already corrected. Zoe immediately went to Coleman's office to show him proof that Whitmore had been replacing her correct translations with flawed versions done by his niece for years. Just then, The HR analyst rushed in with hiring records from the past 5 years, showing a consistent pattern of rejecting qualified non-white candidates, especially women. Coleman was reviewing the evidence when Whitmore entered without knocking. Coleman confronted him about payment records showing $50,000 for incompetent translations while qualified employees cleaned bathrooms. Whitmore tried to defend himself, but Zoe placed a printed email on the table proving that Whitmore's niece had a fake certification. Whitmore lost his temper and called Zoe a nobody, just a cleaning lady. Zoe calmly corrected him, mentioning her PhD in applied linguistics from Georgetown, with 6 international publications. Coleman demanded Whitmore's resignation letter within 30 minutes. 2 hours later, all managers and directors were summoned to an emergency meeting. Dutch and Chinese business executives were also present. Coleman took the stage with Zoe at his side and announced that they had discovered a systematic scheme of discrimination and nepotism that had cost the company millions. For years, managers like Whitmore and Richards had implemented unofficial policies that hurt both employees and profits. Coleman showed presentations with charts comparing employee qualifications versus actual positions, hiring statistics by race and gender, and overpriced contracts with companies linked to managers' family members. He explained that Zoe had saved the company from a diplomatic and financial disaster by correcting translations that would have caused contractual misunderstandings worth millions. Coleman announced that Whitmore had been terminated immediately. Richards was suspended during further investigation. The company would audit all hiring and promotions from the past 5 years. Then Coleman smiled and announced that Dr. Zoe Johnson was being named the new Global Director of International Communications, overseeing all multilingual operations. The room erupted in applause, especially from the cleaning crew sitting in the back, many with tears in their eyes. As Whitmore was escorted out by security, he passed Zoe and muttered that she wouldn't last a month. Zoe just smiled. In her new blazer pocket was a recording device that had captured every threat and racist comment Whitmore had made while trying to cover up his scheme. That night, in her new office overlooking the city, Zoe finally allowed herself to cry. They were tears of relief and joy. She called her mother, who had sacrificed everything to pay for her education, and simply said she had done it. 6 months later, Zoe's office was on the 32nd floor with a view of all Manhattan. Her door plaque read, Dr. Zoe Johnson, Vice President of Diversity and International Relations. Her monthly salary was now 5 figures, but the real power was in what she could change. Zoe presented the results of her Invisible Talents program to the board. In 6 months, they had identified 147 employees with skills in languages, finance, management, and technology, who were working in roles far below their capabilities. 83% were Black, Latino, or from other minority groups. Translation costs were down 78%. Customer satisfaction was up 42%, and diversity ratings were now at the top of the industry. During her presentation, Zoe shared something personal. Her mother had worked as a hotel maid and had a college degree but never got to work in her field. Her mother always told her that no matter how invisible others tried to make her, her worth didn't depend on their recognition. Her mother had died believing some doors would never open for people like them. She never got to see this moment. Many in the room wiped away tears. Sarah Richards was now managing laundry at a small hotel in California, demoted and transferred after the investigation. Thomas Whitmore couldn't find work at any luxury hotel after the allegations of discrimination and embezzlement destroyed his reputation. His niece had to return all the inflated payments and was now actually studying Mandarin properly. Zoe launched a scholarship fund for hotel employees and their children. The first recipient was the daughter of her former cleaning colleague who wanted to study hotel management. What began with a phone call in Dutch had created changes that spread far beyond one hotel. The greatest lesson was clear. Talent exists everywhere. What is often missing are opportunities and recognition. True justice isn't just punishing discrimination, but rebuilding systems so prejudice has nowhere to hide. Zoe's real victory wasn't seeing her enemies fall, but watching hundreds of people like her finally rise to their true potential, with doors now open for everyone who comes after.